Kate Middleton, known for her poised elegance, recently made headlines not with her fashion or royal duties but with a remarkable act of compassion that resonated deeply with those who witnessed it. During a charity service in a serene, historic church with soaring arches and flickering candlelight, Kate noticed something unusual: a young girl, no older than 5, sitting alone in a quiet corner, clutching a worn teddy bear tightly to her chest. The child's isolation in a place filled with families and prayers caught Kate's attention. Engaged in conversation with a local priest, Kate's gaze lingered on the small figure, her maternal instincts recognizing that something was amiss. Excusing herself softly, she began walking toward the girl, each step measured and deliberate, her concern growing with every moment. The church, though bustling with activity, seemed to quiet around her, amplifying the poignancy of the scene. Kate scanned the room for a family member but saw no one approaching the child. The little girl, unaware of Kate's presence, sat hunched over, her teddy bear, tattered and faded, grasped tightly as though it were her only source of comfort. Her small frame seemed dwarfed by the grandeur of the church, the towering columns, and the vibrant stained glass windows that surrounded her. Her simple, worn garment and hunched posture spoke volumes about her vulnerability and solitude. As Kate drew closer, her heart filled with a mixture of empathy and determination. This was more than a fleeting moment of sadness, it was a silent cry for recognition and care. The Princess of Wales, a mother herself, understood the depth of the child's unspoken need. She paused briefly, observing the little girl from a short distance, her mind racing with questions. Why was the child alone in a place meant to bring families together? Was she lost, or did her solitude hint at something deeper? The little girl's delicate appearance and the way she clung to her teddy bear painted a poignant picture of loneliness. Her sagging shoulders and downcast eyes told a story of being overlooked and forgotten. In the midst of the church's grandeur and the murmured conversations of its occupants, she seemed to fade into the background, invisible to all but Kate. Driven by compassion, Kate stepped closer, her footsteps barely audible on the cool stone floor. Her presence, though gentle, carried the weight of royal responsibility and personal care. This was not just a royal gesture, it was a profoundly human one. As she approached, the tension in the air seemed to dissipate, replaced by a quiet hope that Kate's kindness might transform the moment into one of connection and comfort. In that sacred space, Kate Middleton exemplified the power of a single act of compassion. She saw the little girl not as an overlooked detail in the larger tapestry of the day but as someone who mattered deeply. Her actions reminded everyone present that, beyond titles and duties, the essence of humanity lies in noticing, caring, and responding to the silent pleas of those who need us most. Melancholy that words could not express enveloped the moment as Kate Middleton's attention was drawn to the young girl. What was it about this child that compelled Kate to act? Was it the loneliness that seemed to radiate from her small, hunched figure, or the subtle but palpable dread in her demeanor that hinted at abandonment? Kate, who had been present long enough to recognize many faces, saw something unique in the girl's empty yet searching eyes. They seemed to yearn for connection, a touch, or a gesture to shatter the deafening silence. Kate's instinct was to continue her royal duties, smiling for cameras, posing for photos, and engaging with the crowd, things she had done countless times before. But this time was different. As her eyes lingered on the girl, her priorities shifted. How could she stand by and perform her duties when a child so clearly needed her attention? Time seemed to slow, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on her heart. This wasn't merely a royal obligation, it was something deeper, a connection only a mother could understand. Amid the throng of spectators and cameras, this little girl was the only one who truly needed her. Kate's mind raced. Could the girl's family have been swept up in the post-service conversations, leaving her momentarily alone? Or was there something more troubling at play? Each passing second heightened Kate's concern, caught as she was between the demands of her royal role and her maternal instinct. The church, a place meant to be a refuge, seemed anything but for the little girl clutching her teddy bear. Her silent cry for help resonated louder than any words, pulling Kate closer with each deliberate step. As she approached, Kate's empathetic nature took precedence. This moment wasn't about her title, it was about being human. She moved with grace and purpose, her sneakers softly shuffling across the cool stone floor. The room seemed to change around her, the buzz of conversations quieted, replaced by a sense of calm anticipation. Kate knew this was an important moment, one that demanded empathy and kindness. When their eyes finally met, the little girl's initial surprise softened into a look of pure sympathy and recognition. Kate didn't rush to overwhelm her with questions or attention. Instead, she lowered herself to the child's level, her voice gentle and soothing. "Hey there," she said softly, her words filling the silence warmly. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't respond at first, her gaze fixed on the tattered teddy bear in her hands as if the question was too heavy to answer. Kate didn't press. Instead, she waited patiently, her presence reassuring. "It's okay," Kate said after a moment, her voice like a soft wave. "You are not alone." Slowly, the girl's small face tilted up, a glimmer of hope replacing the sadness in her eyes. Kate extended her hand, not forcing a response, but allowing the child to approach her on her own terms. In that sacred space, Kate's presence alone seemed to make a difference. She sat beside the girl, sharing in her silence, offering solace without pressure. Finally, the girl's soft, trembling voice broke the quiet. I lost my mommy," she whispered, her words fragile and filled with pain. Kate's heart ached at the revelation, the weight of the child's grief pressing against her. Resisting the urge to rush in, Kate allowed the moment to unfold naturally, knowing the girl needed space to express her sorrow. This wasn't just a fleeting sadness, it was the deep, unfillable void of a child mourning her mother. In that moment, Kate found something raw and real, grief that couldn't be hidden behind royal duties or public appearances. What she did next wasn't about offering hollow words of comfort or perfect advice. It was about being present, about showing compassion in its purest form, and about letting the little girl know she wasn't truly alone in her pain. Do with empathy, real unvarnished empathy. Kate knew that pain better than anyone else because she was a mother herself. People were too scared to think about losing their child, but this little girl had lost the most important person in her life. Even though Kate's heart hurt and felt sorry for the child, she knew she had to help her find peace, even if it was only for a moment. Thoughts from the girl filled the silence, and Kate placed a light touch on her shoulder. The action was small, but it said a lot. At first, she didn't say anything, she just let the girl cry. She shed many tears, and each one felt like a weight lifted from her weak heart. Kate could feel the connection growing stronger with each drop. This wasn't just a royal moment, it was a moment for all people, a mother and a child, two souls linked by loss. Why did the little girl accept Kate so quickly when she was there? Was it the way Kate's eyes seemed to understand, or was it simply her presence, sitting in silence, not judging or hurrying to make things better? Whatever it was, they were already starting to feel close to one another. As Kate gently wiped the girl's tears away, she knew that this moment would always be etched in her consciousness. Kate sat with the girl and listened to her story, but she couldn't help but wonder, could this one-on-one moment with the girl really change her life? That day, Kate was kind, could that be the sign of hope the child so badly needed, lighting the way forward? As soon as the quiet statement was over, the mood changed. Even though the girl was still sad, she seemed to find some comfort in the quiet time spent with Kate. Kate knew exactly what to do to make her feel even better. At that moment, she reached out and gently pulled the child's little hand toward her own. Kate's soft voice soothed the girl's hurting heart as she said, "You know, this church has a tradition, it's called setting a candle on fire. It's a prayer for someone you care about and a word of hope." The girl's eyes grew bigger, and for the first time, she looked directly at Kate. Her eyes were filled with a mix of uncertainty and hope. Though she didn't say anything, the small change in her stance told Kate everything she needed to know. Kate smiled, got up, and led the girl carefully to the candle stand in the church's corner. Flames flickered and gave off a warm glow, filling the room with soft light and casting gentle shadows on the walls. Kate knelt next to the girl, keeping her hand on her shoulder. Each candle was a small, bright promise of something bigger and better. They stood together in front of the candles, and Kate asked, "Which one would you like to light?" The little girl stared at the candles for a moment, lost in thought, before finally pointing to a small flame in the corner that wasn't lit. Kate smiled, took the lighter off the stand, and handed it to the girl. Carefully, with shaky hands, the girl picked up the match, struck it against the box, and lit it. She gently placed the flame on the wick of the candle she had chosen. There was peace between the two of them in that quiet, close moment. It wasn't just the act of lighting the candle, it was the meaning behind it. The little girl felt as though she had given both her mother and herself hope. That small but significant act was a promise that there would always be light, even in the darkest of times. Kate's eyes softened as she watched the girl, whose little hands trembled slightly as she stepped back to look at the tiny flame. There was something so sweet about the way the girl gazed at the light, as though she were sharing a secret with the world. At that moment, Kate realized that healing didn't always require grand actions or long talks. Sometimes, simple acts of care and connection were enough. It was a small act of kindness to light one candle, but it made them both wonder how it might set the stage for what was to come. Was this the spark that would lead the girl back to her family, where she would be safe and loved? Time would tell, but that candle stood for something much deeper. In that moment, it was a beacon of light in the dark and hope in a world that had seemed so empty. That hope was what would carry the girl through whatever came next. As the candle flickered in the church's sacred space, Kate's heart remained heavy with the gravity of the situation. It wasn't just about comforting the girl in that moment, there was a deeper responsibility. Weighed on her was the responsibility of ensuring this child's safety and, more importantly, finding her mother. The serene atmosphere of the church now seemed charged with a sense of urgency, though Kate's poise never faltered. She had a quiet resolve as natural as breathing, and her instincts as a mother were sharp. As much as she wanted to shield the little girl from further distress, Kate knew she couldn't handle this alone. The church staff needed to be involved. Without missing a beat, Kate rose from her place beside the girl and whispered a few words to the priest nearby. The man, understanding the seriousness of the moment, immediately sprang into action. Kate discreetly moved to the side with the little girl, talking to her in soothing tones as the priest hurried to enlist help. The staff, sensing the growing tension, swiftly began a discreet search of the premises. While some checked the surrounding church hall and its vestibules, others made calls to community members to inquire about any missing persons. Kate's presence remained a quiet, calming force amid the unfolding flurry of activity. She continued to hold the child close, her words soft and gentle as she kept her engaged with small talk about the candles and their meanings, allowing her mind to stay distracted from the uncertainty. The little girl, her wide eyes still glazed with confusion, clung to Kate. Yet, as the minutes passed, an unspoken trust began to form between them. Kate's soft words about family, light, and even the playful flicker of the candles slowly began to comfort her, easing the tension in the child's frail shoulders. But even though the girl was distracted, Kate's mind never left the task at hand. Her royal composure was never more evident than in moments like this, where action had to speak louder than words. The community surrounding them, unseen by the girl, was quietly mobilizing, a web of care spreading out to ensure her safety. All of this, Kate managed with grace, never breaking her calm facade. Was it simply the kindness of the community coming together, or was there something deeper at play? Was it Kate's presence that seemed to inspire everyone into action? This was not just a random act of kindness. Kate, by her very nature, had the ability to inspire the people around her to act. She was the thread that wove everything together, from the concerned staff to the patient community members, all united in a single mission. Their collective energy was like a beacon of hope, pushing past the unknowns and fears that often arise in moments like these. Yet, despite the calm outward appearance, there was an undercurrent of anticipation. Would they find her mother? Every passing second, every phone call, every whisper carried with it the question of whether this story would have a happy ending. But one thing was certain, Kate's composure had set the tone for everyone involved. In a world full of noise, it was the quiet actions of a few that spoke the loudest. The church, though still, was alive with determination. It felt like hours went by while Kate held the little girl close. Her mind was racing, but her heartbeat remained steady. Outside, the search had picked up speed, filling the air with energy. Kate, however, stayed cool and focused on the child in her arms, reassuring her gently. She was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. Time was running out, and she could feel the nervous wave of waiting settling around them. Could they find the girl's mother? The unanswered question hung over the tender moment between them. Then, right on time, voices could be heard coming through the church doors. Kate quickly looked to the front door just as the staff ushered a woman inside. The woman's eyes were wide with fear, her face drawn. It was as if time stopped when she saw her daughter. The mother's breath caught in her throat as she rushed forward, arms outstretched. In the quiet church, a mother and daughter embraced with a depth of emotion that was palpable. When the little girl looked up and saw her mother's teary face, the sudden noise startled her. But then, everything made sense again. Her small frame shook with relief as she leapt into her mother's arms, her sobs mingling with her mother's in a release so raw it could have broken down the walls around them. Kate stood back and watched, her heart swelling with quiet happiness. She had witnessed countless gatherings in her life, but this one was the most profound. There was something elemental about the way the child clung to her mother, as if piecing together fragments of herself that had been lost. The fear of being alone melted away in her mother's arms. Kate couldn't help but feel a deep, almost personal sense of relief. She stood quietly, allowing the mother and daughter their moment. One act of kindness had ended the child's pain and set them on a path to healing. Yet, as Kate watched the tearful reunion, she couldn't help but wonder what had brought these two souls back together after being apart for so long. Was it fate, the love that transcends time and space, or the quiet power of the church? Their shared humanity brought them together in a moment of grace and unity. Having endured separation, their bond had been tested, and now, reunited, everything felt transformed. The quiet figure of Kate in the background knew this was a moment she would always remember. This touching story reminds us that kindness transcends status and empathy binds us all. Kate Middleton's act of compassion shows that even the smallest gestures can change lives. What would you have done in her position? Would you have shown the same level of kindness and care? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories that move the heart.